Hello. I love Mercury retrograde. I just recorded 30 minutes of a video and did not press record. I did press record, but it did not record. So hello and welcome to this video. Today I will be sharing my healing journey that I didn't know I was on a healing journey and how it begins. I just want to set the intention that this is my lived experience, my truth. And I know through storytelling how it could inspire others to know they don't walk this path alone. So thank you for being here. So, where do I begin? The very beginning. How I was initiated into my healing journey, I did not know it was a healing journey until years later, like, oh, I did start my healing journey before I started my spiritual journey. And I am so grateful that it transpired that way. Because I was very afraid of my spiritual gifts. I did not know I had spiritual gifts. So it was about seven. Oh no, it was longer than that because I just recently reflected back. I'm like, oh, it was about 7 years. 7 years is when I embarked on my spiritual gifts, my spiritual abilities, and connecting to my team and understanding that. So let me take you back to 2014. What I feel, I'm still uncovering like where it started because like I said, I thought it was 2017, but it was really 2017 is when I really embarked in like, whoa. So 2014, I lost my grandfather and my husband lost his grandmother on the same day, same time, two matriarchs of the family. But for me, my grandfather was someone in my life that seen me, fully accepted me. He was like you would call your Superman, right? He was my Superman. He was my confidant. He was my best friend. He was my mentor, my guide, a father who raised me for many years of my life. He called me his daughter. I called him my pops, even though he was my grandfather. So when he returned home, it was very devastating for me. And I felt lost, even though I was in a marriage. I'm married. I'm still married to the same man for 34 years. Um, I had three children, two adults, one in high school. I still felt alone. It was like that was my anchor of someone who truly I felt supported me through my life. And I do have the support of my husband and my children. But through my whole life, that was, from the beginning, entering this earth and going through my life journey, no matter what I did, this man accepted me. So he showed me what unconditional love is. And so when he returned home, it it floored me. It spiraled me into depression. If anyone's dealt with depression, I see you. I I hold you in my love, in my heart. Know that there is support out there. Know that you are not alone, that you are loved and you are enough. And if you need help, please ask. Know that you are worthy of it. And I send you so much love. Um, so throughout my life, I have dealt with depression. Um, and this one like really brought me to that point. Even though I had the support all around me, I just couldn't accept it. I didn't understand. I thought I had to carry it. Through my lived experiences, I internalized everything. And I thought I had to be the strong one. And it just projected outwards and was pushing my loved ones away. I didn't realize it at the time, and it caused havoc in my relationships, in all my relationships, my work relationships, my friendships, my marriage, my children, myself. And at the time I didn't see it. You don't see it. And through, you know, years, it happened in 2014. Situations happened. Things felt like it was just falling apart, going through life, trying to figure out living with at the moment, as I reflect back, I was living with the shoulda, coulda, would haves. There was so much I should have said, could have done, would have done. That is an area can, that guilt, right? So, and it was just building, and it was, projecting out into my lived relationships and my lived experiences, and not understanding why I was, having these experiences that were so hurtful, and not understanding why no one could hear me, and like missing and grieving this loss. And I remember having to move in with my in-laws. We lived in a trailer. My youngest lived in the main house, and my two other children were grown and had their families of their own. And I just felt completely just lost and separated. And, me and my husband had an argument that morning, and he left for work. And I remember one morning, this was in 2016, early 2016. And I remember just crying, like, I just need hope. I just need a sign that everything's going to be okay. And I remember, and I just remember this day, it's clear as day. I remember because I was a bus driver at the time, so I had to be at work at like before sunrise, or when the sun was rising, like 6 p.m. or a.m., sorry, 6 a.m. in the morning. And I remember opening the door, and our door faced the east where the sun comes up. And there was this beautiful sunrise. And in the middle of the sunrise was a full body of an angel in the clouds. And in that instant, I just knew everything was going to be okay. And I just leaned into that hope. Okay. I didn't understand it. I'm like, okay, the angel is a sign of it's going to be okay. And so I went through the day driving my bus, picking up my kids, and just contemplating, like just leaning into it, still feeling the sadness, still feeling like, man, the situation, what, trying to figure it out. And this thought came in, and I didn't understand the transfer of thought from spirit. I just thought it was me thinking it up. It was like, need to move into a house and get in together and feel united with the kids. So I went home that day. I'm like, look, sat my husband down and said, for us to get our family back and feel whole again, we need to live all under the same roof, which is me, my husband, my youngest daughter. And so the kids could come back, the older kids, and bring the grandkids. And so that was, I think, February. By July, we were in a house, and it felt amazing. Everything felt in place. And I didn't realize it at the time, but as I did my reflection, I look at it now, and I could share now how divinely it was planned out, divine timing, right? But I didn't know at the time. I didn't know anything about my spiritual guidance. I didn't know anything. I'm like, okay, this is meant to be. It was a coincidence. And so, moving into the house, feeling really good, starting to feel good, like, okay, that weight is being lifted, but still having these situations come up. So having not feeling good enough. And then having 2017, having so much resistance at work, so much negativity. I felt like I was losing myself. I would literally roll out of bed, put on sweats, put my hair up, and go to work. Having resistance in my marriage, having resistance still with my children. And I remember one argument with my husband that really catapulted me to that next level, right? 2014 was the first one. Now, come 2017, I'm looking for other jobs because I knew I had to get out of my situation at work because it was years and years and years of negative abuse. And now it's projecting on my family, which I was doing it and didn't realize it at the time. And I remember one argument with my husband, love you, honey. And he's like, I'm trying to support you and love you, but you just won't let me. Tell me what I can do to support you. I'm like, what? You're not. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And this is 25 years of marriage in, right? We've been through a lot of cycles. Ooh, my solar plex. I'm like, ooh, that hurt. This is vulnerable. So, but this was part of my healing journey. So, um, so I remember going upstairs and crying and just like, is this me? Am I the problem? Always, that wounded thinking it's me. And I'm like, okay. And I cried out. I remember being on my knees and just crying out, getting ready for a shower. I'm like, if there's a God, if you hear me, please come and help me. I was begging. I was at my rock bottom. Sorry about that. I had to get some water. So I took a shower. I was bawling. And it's interesting how most people, I don't know all, but I know there's a statistic out there that a lot of people go to the bathroom and cry their eyes out. And I go in the shower or bathtub. So that's what I did. And I was crying and, I was pleading with God. If, there's a God, please. And you say I'm your child. I need you now. I can't. I don't know how to move on. I don't know how to release and how to love myself. And, I said more prayers. But that's really like, I need you. I need you. And so I went to bed. My husband came to bed. He's sleeping. I had insomnia really bad. I dealt with insomnia. And I remember going downstairs because I just could not shut off the brain and turned on the TV. And this television pastor came on, and his name is Joel Osteen. And normally I would, just keep changing, but he said something. And he's like, this is your sign. God heard your prayers last night. In the midst of your crying, he heard your prayers, and you are a child of God. So, in that moment, I knew I didn't want to go to church. I knew I had um, trauma from, my upbringings and belief systems. And I was, I felt not worthy enough. But that moment, and I will talk about my upbringings another time, but that moment I felt seen and heard in my prayers. There was something inside my heart. I was like, yes, okay. And I listened to his 30-minute talk, and he was talking about the signs of God and sometimes how we pass them, we ask for them. And when people talk, we're like, no, we dismiss it. And I'm like, I was intrigued at the time. I'm like, okay, I want to hear a little bit more about how he expresses God. Because I know was raised in a very religious household, and throughout my life have been in different structures of religion and community. So, anywho, and I didn't want to be bottle fed, but I was intrigued. So I'm listening to him, and throughout, a couple months of listening to him, I'm like, okay, and I sat with it, and I didn't realize I was doing that. I was like listening to it, and I'm like, okay, how does that make me feel? And I would sit with it and learn. And it's like, okay, I started feeling a little bit better about myself. And then one day, I didn't take everything he said because it was very, um, it didn't resonate with me, but there was a lot of it that did. And I'm like, okay, so read some of his books, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense, and this doesn't make sense. And I would question it. And then every Sunday I would listen to him before football. And I started feeling a little bit lighter, but there was still this heaviness. There was this, you know, a gleam of hope, but I didn't fully see it yet. It was like those baby steps. And so he had a speaker, and she was another television pastor, and she would preach, and her name is Joyce Myers. I cried when I heard her speak. Her story reflected parts of my story. I was amazed and curious how she could tell her story and not feel shame and guilt. And then she comes and says, God loved me anyways through all of that. And she talked about building your own relationship, finding your relationship with God. That was the first time in my whole life that I felt seen and heard and understood. I need to build my relationship with God. What does that mean for me? Not through this structure or not through that structure. And so I listened to her for years. Like that was 2017. Oh, 2000. And I still listen to her. I bought books. I went to go see her live. Um, did everything she say resonated with me? No, but it was the way she teaches. And this is what I learned about teachers that come into my life. I learn when they don't try to put you and say their truth is your truth. They teach you in a way that this is my truth, and they inspire you to find it within yourself, right? And that's what I loved about her teaching. She talked about how if we are going to be a reflection of Jesus, to understand that within yourself. And I was just like, okay, I'm building my relationship with God. I'm building my relationship with Mother Mary. I'm building my relationship with Jesus. And so I started discovering that, and I started feeling a little bit better. Um, Still, I have trauma around churches, so I would, you know, do it in my own house. I would go out in nature. I would contemplate. I would be driving the bus. It was within me, but there was still this underlying wound that was not healing. And I have discovered I wouldn't allow it, you know? And so I remember again, another initiation. Like, okay, why can't I fully heal? What else do I need to know? And I would talk to God the way I talk to you, and I talk to, I'm like, okay, what else do I need? Can you show me what else I need? And again, another transfer of thought that I thought I had thought of. And it was like, oh, you need some energy work. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, oh, I remember my friend who's a local medium. And I know she collaborates with a Reiki practitioner. So I went on her website. I'm like, okay, this is, me thinking that I know I'm the one who's navigating this. And so I I said, I don't understand it, but I'm going to give it a try. That's just how I, that's just how I am. It's like, at least you try it once and, if it doesn't work, at least you tried. So I tried it. The first time I went, mind blown. I was like in tears because I felt, and, she explained the process. I told her why I was seeing her, where I was at, the whole story that I just shared with you. And I'm like, I just feel this block. And she's like, yeah, those are energetic blocks. Do you know about the chakra system? I'm like, no, didn't know anything. And so she explained it to me and she's like, I don't really talk. And so we had my first session and mind blowing. Like, yes, I was crying in it, but in those tears, I felt this relief happening. I'm like, okay, I need to do this for as long as it needs to be. And so, different wounds started coming up, mother wounds, ancestral wounds, abuse wounds. And it wasn't easy, but it brought it to light where I could bring awareness and healing to and look at it in a different perspective. And this is 2018 now, 17, 18. 2018, I left my job. I quit my bus driver job, found a new job, and still embarked on my healing journey. I knew, with learning my relationship with God, with creator, creation, I use those terminologies because that's what resonates with me. And doing the energetic works, which I didn't realize was my start of my healing journey. And that embarked my healing journey of really understanding who Gracie was. I knew the wounded Gracie and I carried her, and I didn't realize I needed healing because whenever I went back prior to all what I just told you, I would shove it away. I didn't realize the energetics of how it was leading my life, how I was blocking my healing, how I was blocking the love within myself first and foremost. I thought I loved myself. I loved myself surfacely, right? But I didn't truly love myself. I didn't know I was worthy of love, even though I had an amazing husband who loved me. He knows my whole story. He loved me. I'm like, how could you love me? Because you can't receive what you don't give yourself. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that. And this is where, through this time and how it folded slowly, I learned about grace. I learned about compassion. I learned about forgiveness and what true forgiveness means, divine forgiveness. Because prior to that, forgiveness, someone said, you need to forgive them. I'm like, no, I don't. I was very angry. How could I forgive somebody that hurt me? I'm not going to release them from that, but I was bounding myself to that person while they lived their lives. And I would get angry. Right? We go down through these because we want to punish. But the only one I realized the only one I was punishing was myself from allowing all this to happen, allowing what is truly freedom. I didn't know what freedom was. I was a prisoner of my fears. I was a prisoner of my past. I didn't know any better. And this is where the forgiveness and the compassion for thyself comes. Got to learn how to love yourself. And that unfolds within time and healing. And I did some of it by myself because I didn't want people to see my vulnerability. But I know I don't walk this path alone. I don't need to do this alone. For one, I've always had Creator with me and my angels and my guides, but it took time to get to where I'm at today, and it will continue to unfold. And my hope and my passion, my intention is that that we come back to the remembrance and the rediscovery of who we truly are, our inner love, that inner sacred fire that never burns out, to come back to that wisdom, to that inner truth, that enoughness. You are enough. Yes, we have lived through a lot of hardship, a lot of different life experiences. And I won't be the one who'd be like, oh, just heal that and it'll be better. No, I know that it used to frustrate me when people told me that. And it's like, no, that was still part of my journey. But you could find peace. Does it take away the pain? It slowly gets lighter. Does it take away what happened? No. But you look at it a different perspective. You're not so attached to that emotion. And that happens slowly. So, no, me sharing my story and walking this path, I know how fearful it can be. But I also know walking through that, the freedom, that alone, releasing yourself and knowing yourself and seeing the resilience that you got through that, the strength you got through whatever you went through, the discernment, it doesn't erase the past, doesn't. But it does give you a different perspective and you see it differently. And it takes time and grace. So that's why I'm passionate about sharing healing journeys. It's going to be different for everybody. You don't have to walk this path alone. You don't walk this path alone. And, when I started embarking on my journey, I'm like, well, why didn't you come in early? They will start showing you your team in spirit, your angels, divine creator, your guides, your loved ones will show you different times. They're non-interference, beings. And I don't know why. I can't explain it all. I'm still uncovering it for myself. But I lean and I call on my spirit team and I'm like, I know you can't do this for me, but give me the grace for resilience. Give me the discernment and the strength, the humility, the humble. Keep me humble. You want me to share my story? Thank you for helping me be of service. And my hope is that you feel within yourself through my story that you are not alone and that you are loved fully, completely. So thank you. I appreciate you being here with me. Know that our truths can be our truths and be different and still coexist with each other. I accept you and thank you for accepting me exactly where I'm at. And through my storytelling, through different healing experiences, I hope to inspire you to see what resonates with you. And, feel free to reach out and we could have a conversation. And if not, you could follow me on Instagram or you just know that you're not alone. And I have discovered that through my journey. And I am so grateful for the people, my mentors, my teachers, my family, my husband, people that come in my life and go in my life. And it just continues to unfold. So thank you. I am sending you so much love and we'll see what the next video is about. Okay. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.